Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Julia and I thought I would get started with just a little brief introduction to me and also to some of my writing projects. So first of all, I have been writing for about as long as I can remember. I really don't know a time in my life when I wasn't a writer, except, before I learned how to write probably. But yeah, I've been working on it my whole life. I don't have anything published yet. I do have 2 short stories published through my university in their publication, but no novels yet. So we're working on it. It's work in progress. I do write predominantly fantasy and contemporary stories. I have 2 series that I'm working on in those genres, and I do branch just a touch into sort of sci-fi, more speculative fiction, but not too much. It's predominantly fantasy and contemporary. I also read quite widely. You can see part of my library in the background there. I wanted to use more of my library as the backdrop, but my shelves are an absolute mess right now. So I decided to go for a more condensed version that looks a little less ugly. I did study English Lit in university and then went on to take a course in editorial skills. So I am not just a writer and a reader, I'm also a trained and an experienced editor, and I love editing. I am such a nerd about it. I just love it so much. I find it really fun and enjoyable. So if you have a project that you need proofread or developmentally edited or maybe beta read, you can I have a link down below for my Fiverr. You can hire me to do any of that. I really genuinely love doing this. Currently, though, I am working full-time managing the dining hall at a Christian camp here in Ontario, which sadly doesn't actually leave me as much time to write as I would like to have. The goal with this channel will be, number 1, to document my own writing journey. I'm currently on draft 6 of a fantasy book. I'm on draft 1 of a contemporary romance because I just have wildly varied interests. I also want to give advice to other writers from the perspective of a writer/editor so I can understand both sides of that experience, and I feel like I have some decent advice to share. Maybe not. Maybe some of you will find it helpful and maybe some of you won't. No one's probably watching this video anyway, so I'll also probably talk a bit about reading. I do love that as well, obviously. If I'm a writer and an editor, I love reading. I am not promising to have any set schedule on when videos will come out. My work schedule is a little all over the place, especially right now. We're 2, maybe 3 weeks out from our summer camp season. And so I'm about to have a really crazy work schedule and it's kind of chaotic. So I need to make sure that I'm staying healthy and taking care of myself and the other things that I need to do. So that's my priority over the videos right now. I also want to introduce some of my main writing projects as well as myself. So my primary project is a portal fantasy story. It's supposed to be a 5-book series, and currently the working title is Wildless. I'm thinking that'll be the title of the first book and also the series. So in the first book, Kate, my main character, grew up listening to her family's stories of Wildmoor, a magical world that could be reached through a hidden door in her grandparents' house. But when she's 8, she finally has the chance to travel to Wildmoor with her uncle, only to watch him die and find out that people from our world are forbidden to be in the other. 16 years later, she and her brothers inherit the house with the doorway to Wildmoor, and her brothers disappear into the other world. Kate has to fight her own fears to follow them and bring them home before they get themselves killed too. She ends up caught up with people from the world and learns about politics, has big adventures, starts, building relationships with people there, all while hiding her identity as being someone from our world. It's a lot of fun to write. It's based partially on I love maps, so she becomes a cartographer in Wildmoor, and so I get to build on that love. And there's a bit of romance, there's a lot of adventure, it's a lot of fun. I'm really loving the direction the story's taking as I continue writing it. And I've been working on like my world building, and I love my world. I think it's great. I think it's fun. I think it has some unique features. I could be very wrong, but I'm biased, so I love my world. My contemporary series that I'm currently working on is called Geographies. I'm actually working on book 3 at the moment. I have not written books 1 or 2. I do have a general idea of the plots of those ones. Book 3 is the first idea I had for this series, and it's the one I'm most excited about. So it's the one I'm starting with because that's the one that's going to be fun to write. So in this story, we're following Nate and Emily. And they actually dated and broke up years prior to the start of the story. And Nate's been traveling the world and having adventures while Emily has been going to university. And basically the disagreement on those two lifestyles was what caused them to break up in the first place. Just before the story starts, Nate's been planning a trip around Europe with his brother Avery, but then Avery dies suddenly about 2 weeks before the trip, and so he begs Emily to come with him instead. And she gives in, and they travel together, and it's a romance story, so of course they do fall back in love with each other because that's how it works. That's not a spoiler when it's a romance story. This is, as I said, a series, but I'm actually planning some of the books in the series won't fully be romance. The main characters won't end up in a relationship. They might stay single, happily so, just to be a bit more reflective of, I'm single, and that kind of life experience, and not everyone ends every story in a relationship. So maybe that's a little cheesy, but I like it. I like where the stories are going. I have about 1 million other story ideas as well. These are the 2 main ones. Fellow writers, I'm sure you understand the feeling of nonstop ideas. I actually love it. It's nice to feel like, I'm never going to run out of ideas. Maybe I will someday. Who knows? I don't. There's one about superheroes in our real world. I have an idea for like sort of a post-apocalyptic story that I actually am thinking I might try to release online, like once every 2 weeks, every month kind of thing, like a chapter at intervals. The way the story is told, I feel like it could work well in that medium, and it would be a lot of fun to do that. We'll see. I need a bit more time to write if I'm going to do that while also working on my main projects, so I'll keep you posted if anyone is watching this. Outside of writing or reading or editing, I spend a lot of time with my friends or my family, especially my niece and nephew. My bestie / housemate / co-worker and I like to build those book nooks together, the kits that you can buy, and we'll put on a show and we'll work on them. Our other housemate, actually, she likes them, but she doesn't want to build them, so she got a couple for Christmas and had us each build one, so that's been fun. I also love to travel, and right this second I have a very serious travel bug, which is part of the reason I want to write my Geographies travel romance story, because I feel like that will either encourage it or satisfy it. We'll find out over the summer. I'm planning to do the first draft in the summer because it takes a bit less thinking than editing draft 6 of the fantasy story, and I'm not going to have much brain power with my work schedule this summer. But I love travel. I actually just got back from a trip a few days ago. I went to Prince Edward Island and Halifax out on the east coast of Canada. My mom and I spent about 6 days out there. We visited a bunch of Lucy Maud Montgomery and Anne of Green Gables sites. We went out east when I was 9, and I was right at the height of my Anne of Green Gables phase. And the one thing I wanted to do was visit Green Gables, and we went and we parked outside and it was closed. So we took a picture and we left and we never went back. And so I finally got to go inside Green Gables, and it still would have been better to go when I was 9, but I'm glad I finally got to go. Not quite how I picture it in my head, but that's okay. Last year, I was in London for about a week and a half. I got to go inside Stonehenge, which honestly is one of the highlights of my life to this point. It was so cool. I also took some archaeology classes in university, so it kind of played off of that a little bit. It was so cool. So cool. I also visited a place called Shell Grotto, which is a bit south of London, and that's the inspiration for one of the settings in my fantasy story. Year before that, I went to Scotland with a friend of mine who is also a writer. It is so much fun to travel with her and go to museums with her. We've been critiquing each other's books for a few years now, so we know each other's stories. So if we're going around a museum, it'll be like, oh, look at that, that's perfect. You need to, that's for this character, that's for this part of your world. You need to put this in your story. So it's just a really fun way of exploring museums because we can point out all these things to the other person that will suit their story. We spent almost a full month exploring Scotland, which wasn't nearly enough time to satisfy me and probably not her either. But we both got heaps of writing inspiration. And it was so beautiful. And I want to go back like so badly. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave things for now. Just wanted to do a little brief introduction to me and my writing and my channel. I hope to have some writing tips and advice coming your way soon, but again, I'm heading into a really busy work season, so I might not post another video for like 2 or 3 months because my life's gonna be kind of crazy. We'll see. For now, have a great day. All right, so I filmed that video about 2.5 weeks ago now. And plot twist, the day after I recorded that, I had a health situation flare up that forced me to realize I needed to quit my job before the summer. And so I'm no longer the dining hall coordinator at my camp, which I'm still processing. It happened really quickly. Like I made the decision 1 week and a week later I told my boss, and then a week later I was done that job. I'm sticking around for the summer. I'm gonna run our tuck shop this summer, and beyond that I don't actually know what comes next. So yeah, I guess just follow along as I start over my life at 31.